Hello everyone, welcome to Mastermind. In this video, let us discuss about temple architecture. As we all know, this is the part of our UPSC Prelims series, UPSC Prelims 2023 series. In that, there are various questions which are asked from current affairs, as we all know. But in current affairs also, there are various sections. In that, art and culture also is one section. So if we start to discuss about art and culture current affairs, then if our basics are not that clear, then it will be a little difficult for us to understand. So what we will do is we will brush up all the important basics related to art and culture with respect to that of temple architecture. Later on we will move into the current affairs. Basically, if you are to discuss about or if you have to know about temple architecture, then mostly they'll be asking about styles, that is Nagara style, Dravidian style, etc. So we have to understand from the very basics. So when we say temple, this word itself is derived from the Latin word templum, Latin word of templum. So this templum means a sacred precinct. It means sacred precinct. In other words, it is a structure which is reserved for religious or spiritual activities such as prayer, sacrifice, and other rites. Okay, so in case of India or in ancient literature, temple is referred to as, in ancient literatures, it is referred to as devalayas. It is referred to as devalaya. Then devayatan. Okay, devayatan and devagriha, etc. So that indicates that ancient temples were house of God. So if you look at temple or religious beliefs as such, from Indus Valley itself, there were various forms in which the worship were being made. At that point of a time, you might have read about terracotta figures. During Indus Valley. For that, an example is Mother Goddess. Okay, so at that point of a time, they were handmade using pinching methods. And similarly, in different centuries, the worshipping per se started to evolve on different scale. So whenever we are discussing about architecture as such, at that point of a time, two eras are very important for us. So in that, the first one is Mauryan art. You might feel that this is not related to temple architecture, but we will start from the very basics so that when we are discussing a little more detail, that time it will be easier for us to understand. And the second one will be our Gupta age. Okay, Gupta age. This is very, very important. Okay, because it is considered to be the golden times of all the arts. So in case of Mauryan art, at that point of a time, it can be divided into two parts. First one is the court art, and the second one is popular art. Now, whenever you read something related to court art, that means it was commissioned by the king at that point of a time. That is, the state itself took the initiative. It is a state initiative. In case of popular art, it is individual initiative. So an example for court art would be these stupas. Then you have pillars, stupas, etc. In case of individual art, they are caves, pottery, sculptures, etc. Let's quickly look at all the basics. First one is pillars. Now, what was the motive behind pillars? That is, it was the symbol of the state. First one is, it was the symbol of the state, and it would commemorate the victory of that particular king. For example, you can see Mauryan pillars. Here, one most important point is that In case of Mauryan pillars, they were made up of Chunar sandstones. Very, very important. Chunar sandstones. Okay, this is important. Mauryan pillars were made up of Chunar sandstones. Next one is stupas. So these were the representation of funeral cumulus. That is, in these the ashes of the dead were buried. Ashes of the dead were buried. That is, it is a Buddhist monument. It is a Buddhist monument. Which is a hemispherical dome with Buddha's relics and ashes inside. So they were stupas. From now on, we'll be moving towards the temple slowly. That is, we have started with pillars over here. At that point of a time also, there were a lot of temples which were commissioned, but we'll be discussing about proper structure also in the next part now. But we are starting from the very basics, in which we are discussing about the court art and popular art. Court arts are the state initiative, in which we can see there are stupas, pillars, etc. Popular art are individuals, that is, there are caves, pottery, etc. So that is, before a temple came into existence, that is, the temple architecture as such came into existence. So we can see a lot of presence of all the important gods inside the caves. That is, the worshipping were happening inside the caves, and later on the temples took into place. Now coming back to, they were the burial grounds over here, which we were discussing of stupas. Example for this is Sanchi Stupa. Where is Sanchi Stupa? It is in Madhya Pradesh, and this was by King Ashoka. Okay, so this is an example of stupas. Now when it comes to popular art, they are the ones which were individual initiatives. In that we can see the first one is caves. So caves, this is important because from here it was the beginning of rock cut architecture. This was beginning of rock cut architecture. So there were various features which were added by Mayuras. That is, they were polishing the caves inside, and then the gateways were very much artistic. For example, you can see Barabar caves, etc. Basically, in Mayura's age, caves were used as viharas. Now this is a new word for us. We will be discussing about this also, because there are two types. One is chaityas, and the second one is viharas. Chaityas and viharas. We'll discuss about these also, but you have to remember that caves were used as viharas in the Mauryan age. Next one is sculpture. So these were the objects of worship in the folk religion. That is, you had Yaksh and Yakshini in this. Yaksh and Yakshini in this. In this case, these figures are associated with all the religions, that is Jainism, Buddhism, as well as Hinduism. Then there is pottery. In pottery, you have to remember NBPW. Very, very important, frequently asked. Now what is this? It is Northern Black Polished Ware. So this was highly lustrous polish. So it is a luxury ware showing maturity. Highest level of pottery making was considered to be NBPW, that is Northern Black Polished Ware. So these were some of the arts which are associated with that of Mauryan age. And in the next part here only, that is after the Mauryan age, these caves, stupas, sculptures, etc. continued, but the sculpture making reached its climax during this stage, that is in the Mauryan age only. So in the second part itself, we are discussing about post-Mauryan art. So in post-Mauryan art, first one is, we were looking at chaityas and caves, chaityas and viharas, right? So these were two kinds of caves which had originated. So they were of two types. One is chaityas and second one is viharas. Viharas is a place of rest for monks. Okay, for monks this was the place of rest. And in case of chaityas, it is a prayer hall. It is a prayer hall. Chaityas were a prayer hall and viharas were the place of rest. Okay, so for example, Karla Chaitya in Maharashtra. So it was a prayer hall. And you can see another one is Ajanta caves, because we are discussing here about caves itself. In caves only, chaityas and viharas we were discussing. The most important one in this is Ajanta caves. Ajanta caves. So Ajanta caves is a collection of 29 caves. In that 29, 25 are viharas and remaining 4 are chaityas. So 29 caves are there. In that 25 are viharas and only 4 are chaityas. That is, there were 4 prayer halls, whereas there were rest or places for rest to monks. That is, there were 25 viharas. So these are some of the points which you have to remember with respect to that of Mauryan age. That is, Mauryan age we discussed, and also in the post-Mauryan age we discussed. In the second one, in the next slide, we'll be discussing about Gupta age, because Gupta age is the golden age of Indian architecture. One most important point with respect to Guptas which we have to remember is that they were Brahmanical by religion, but they were very tolerant towards other religions as well. That is, Buddhism also and Jainism also. In this case, under Hinduism, because if we are to discuss about temple architecture, we have to discuss about Hinduism only. There were 3 deities which were worshipped. Very, very important for us. 3 deities which were worshipped. First one was Vishnu. Second one is Shiva. Third one is Shakti. Vishnu, Shiva and Shakti. So in case of Vishnu, the deities or people who worship Vishnu god, so they are called as Vaishnavas. Okay, Vaishnavas. Shiva, then they are called as Shaivas or Shaivism. And then this is mostly in the Malabar region and in the eastern India, where they worshipped Shakti. Malabar and eastern India, goddess Shakti or female god. Okay, so eastern India. So Vaishnavas majorly, or Vaishnavism majorly, were in the northern and central part of India. In case of Shaivism, we can see them to be dominant in the southern part of India. Malabar and the eastern India, there were Shaktis. Okay. In this age itself, we have to be discussing with respect to that of Ellora caves, Ajanta caves, as we have seen. So there are small paintings. When we are discussing or we are revising about painting, at that point of a time, we'll brush up those basics. But for temple architecture, all the basics are clear, is what I suppose. Now, in this, we will be discussing about different temple architectures, different styles of temple architectures. So in that case, there are a few styles which you have to remember, that is styles of temple architecture. First one is Nagara School of Architecture. This we are discussing about temple architecture, because when we are discussing about Gupta age, even the paintings flourished. That is why when there was all-round development of architecture in India in Gupta age, it is called as golden age. So in case of paintings also, there was vast development, that is Ellora caves, Ajanta caves, etc. But let us move on to the styles or temple architecture's styles. First one is Nagara School of Architecture. Nagara School or Nagara style of architecture. In this only there were sub-schools. First one is Odisha School. Second one is Khajuraho School. Third one is Solanki Third one is Solanki school. Okay, Odisha school, Khajuraho school, Solanki school. So they come under which architecture? They come under Nagara style. They come under which architecture? They come under Nagara style architecture. Very, very important for us. Now next one, the temple architecture. In the temple architecture, next one which is important for us is the Dravidian style or the South Indian architectures, temple architecture in South India. In that we will see Dravidian style, and we can see the another one which is Vesara style. Vesara. These are majorly in the South India. Vesara. Fourth one is Nayaka, and the last one is Vijayanagara. So Nagara school of architecture, that is, in that we can see Odisha, Khajuraho, Solanki, and temple architecture in South India can be divided into 4 parts, which is Dravidian, Vesara, Nayaka, and Vijayanagara. Let us discuss about Nagara school of architecture first. Now here, for us from prelims perspective, there are few points which we have to remember. These are very important notes. First one is, in Nagara school of architecture, you don't find tanks. So there is no tanks in the temples, whereas you can find tanks in the Dravidian style, or in the southern style. And also you can see that each wall is divided into 3 vertical planes called as rathas. So there is division of each wall into 3 vertical planes called as rathas also, we can see over here. Let us see an example for this thing completely, So let us construct a Nagara style of architecture's temple and understand from the very basics. So the first one, you have a appraised platform. Platform, and above this appraised platform, you have steps over here. Let us consider there are steps which is leading to the place over here. Now you have the entrance to be in pillars. So you have pillared approach. Then you have the passage. This is a passage. You have pillared approach, and then you have a passage, and here you'll have the temple, and the middle place over here, or wherever there is a worshipping, that place, it is called as Garbhagriha, which is sanctum sanctorum, Garbhagriha or sanctum sanctorum. And on top you can see there is Shikhara. So this passage which is there, which leads to the temple, so this passage is covered. Okay, this passage is covered. And one most important point is there is absence of tank in the temple. So this kind of architecture is prominent in case of northern India, and it is relatively less, or you can say very less, in the peninsular India. So as we were seeing before, there are 3 sub-schools. In that, the first one is Odisha school. Now we will be discussing only the unique features over here. First one is, there is no use of pillars. Instead of pillars, iron girders are used to support the roof. They use iron girders. Then exterior walls are decorated, very lavishly decorated. An example for Odisha school, very, very important over here. Example for Odisha school is Konark temple. Example for Odisha school is Konark temple. Now, what style is Konark temple in? It is in Nagara style of architecture. Or what exactly, in which sub style it is? It is Odisha school. It is Odisha school under Nagara style of architecture. Now, there is one question which is asked usually in the examination whenever Konark temple is there. That is, it is also known as Black Pagoda. Black Pagoda. It is also known as Black Pagoda. So, this has a gate of black sandstones. It has a gate of black sandstone, and it believed that during the sunrise the first rays entered this only. Okay, so it is known as Black Pagoda. This is from 13th century. Then you have Jagannath temple in Puri. So then you have Lingaraja temple. So these are Odisha school. These are Odisha school. Now in case of Odisha school, so this Shikhara which we had seen before, seen before, it rises vertically. It rises almost vertically till the top when it suddenly curves sharply. Okay, so you have this over here. You have this over here, and on top you have Kalash. On top you have Kalash. And this rises vertically, and this is Shikhara. This is Shikharas. And these Shikharas in Odisha school are called as Dyul. These are called as Dyul. These are called as Dyul. So I hope you have understood about Odisha school now. Now the second school under Nagara style of architecture, it is Khajuraho. It is Khajuraho. So what is the another name for this architecture? Khajuraho school. Khajuraho school. It is also known as Chandel school. It is also known as Chandel school. Very, very important. Chandel school. It is also known as Khajuraho school. Comes under Nagara style of architecture. Nagara school of architecture. Because it was developed by Chandel rulers, it is known as Chandel school or Khajuraho school. Or they can ask, Khajuraho school was developed by Chandel rulers. It was developed by Chandel rulers. That is why it is also known as Chandel school. Now, in this, what are the unique features? What are the unique features? In case of Odisha schools, exterior walls were decorated lavishly. In this case, interior and exteriors both are decorated lavishly. Both are decorated with intricate carvings. And sculptures in case of Khajuraho school were carrying erotic themes. Were carrying erotic themes on the walls of temple, that is based on the Kama Sutra. And they do not have boundary walls. Very important. No boundary walls. No boundary walls. And they have three elements. That is, they have Garbhagriha also, and they have assembly hall, and the third one is they have portico. They have portico, that is a veranda which is surrounded by pillars. So there is presence of pillars in case of Khajuraho school, but there is no presence of pillars in case of Odisha school. And here Shikharas are also present. So the third division in case of Nagara school. So the third division in case of Nagara school is Solanki. Solanki school. Solanki school. That is, it was developed in the Gujarat region by Solanki rulers. So, for example, you have Mathura Sun Temple. You have Mathura Sun Temple. So, Solanki branches of Chalukya rulers are also there. You have massive rectangular stepped tank. On steps are small temples. On the steps there you can see on the steps also there will be small temples. These we can see in Gujarat. These we can see in Gujarat. On the steps also there are small temples which we can see in Gujarat. An example for this is Dilwara temple in Mount Abu, which is the highest Jain pilgrimage. Dilwara temple. Dilwara temple, where it is It is in Mount Abu. It is in Mount Abu, which is the highest Jain pilgrimage. Highest Jain pilgrimage. So in this part, we have discussed related to temple architecture, and we have discussed about Nagara school of architecture. In the next part, we'll discuss about the remaining ones, that is Dravidian style of architectures. Style of architectures, that the temple architecture in South India. This is basically temple architecture in North India. So at the end of this e-paper, there are a few more multiple choice questions for you to answer. Because this is a revision series, in this we are discussing just in writing, so that it acts as a revision also, and there is no write-up as such, because these articles we have given previously only. So these are like a rapid revision for the upcoming examination. So at the end of this e-paper, there are a few multiple choice questions for you to answer. You can attempt those. Thank you. I'll see you soon in the next one.